We have spoken about the countless Spider-Man movies that there are, and which is the best. However, there are so many, which begs the question, are any of them repetitive? Hello everyone and welcome back to AustinPlus Commentary, where today we are answering a question where I think it's very similar to the Batman one, but I also think it's very important equally to the Batman one, which is, are the Spider-Man movies very repetitive? Now, we'll go through the standard ones that we did last time: Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, Into the Spider-Verse, and then ending off with the Lego. And then we'll kind of justify it from there, but I think we all kind of already know the answer, but let's get into it. For the likes of Tobey Maguire, all of these movies were very iconic, introducing a new Spider-Man movie franchise with iconic villains, storylines like MJ and Green Goblin, but this movie did so well that the future movies tried replicating that. For the second movie, I think they used a very similar structure to the Green Goblin and the first one with the likes of MJ, except they changed the villain arc and used Doc Ock instead. The story just was a bit different with different characters, but the third one was just a collective of non-comprehensible shit show is the best way I can really put it. The third one was just like, how many villains can we add in one movie, but it didn't really make sense. You had the very cocky Eddie Brock, but a really bad interpretation of Venom. You had Sandman, who was actually pretty decent, but he didn't get enough screen time. Then you had a revamped Green Goblin, which ended up dying, and it wasn't that great. So all in all, I think the first two were they followed a very big storyline, but the third one, it just didn't make sense. They were going to do a Spider-Man 4 with the Vulture and a bit of a shriveled up one, and I think that could have been good, but then they obviously changed that to Tom Holland's. But overall, I think it just decreased over time. I think 1 and 2 were definitely core in terms of entertainment, but they just didn't but they followed the same structure. The third one I just don't think served any relevance. For the likes of Andrew Garfield, these movies were a very big dark version, but to me, both of these movies seemed very similar in terms of villains and stories, because they all seemed like characters and experiments that had gone wrong, but the type of Spider-Man had more darker tones. The characters and the villains, they were all lab experiments, and they were all things that happened in the wrong sort of way, with the likes of Lizard, Electro, and Green Goblin. The Spider-Man portrayal, I think, was good. The storyline just was really, really weak. They had actually a lot in store for the likes of the third TASM movie, but they didn't end up going through with it. Instead, they had a cameo in the end of No Way Home, which again didn't make much sense. It was mainly for just the glory moments and for the fans, but it didn't serve any more purpose other than to define the multiverse, which obviously happened later down the line. Andrew Garfield, I think, was definitely a standout Spider-Man, but both of these movies, I think, were repetitive. And I know that's going to offend some people, but then again, that is my opinion. If you have a different one, please do leave a comment down below. Now, for the likes of Tom Holland, all three of these movies were connected somehow, with the likes of being connected to the MCU, and all of these were, I think, very different. For the first one, you saw the rising star after the Civil War, being the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man he is, but also trying to be more than just that. So he was trying to define himself as a different type of Spider-Man, which he did later on in the different movies. In the second one, he delves into a much deeper story, which is what I also in terms of Mysterio, darkness, and then obviously a bit of travel sprinkled in there. I think that was different, also very appealing. The third one, however, I really don't classify it as repetitive, because we haven't seen these characters before as a collective, but we have seen them before in separate franchises, as I explained. The story and everything was what made it stand out, even though all the characters were the same. But I do think it was still if you're talking about originality, it stood out. In terms of characters, it was repetitive. So some traits of it was repetitive. For the likes of Into the Spider-Verse, there isn't enough there to say that this variation was realistically a repetitive type. The first movie showcased a well-known story to a great degree, but the second movie really moved away from that. First of all, that's a big difference in itself. There was a lot going on, so it made it seem like there was not too much going on for the likes of Miles Morales. But also, these shows that these movies are completely different. Miles Morales' movie and time was shown, but then it was time for a bigger and better story. I think they are different in terms of story, which I think is the important part, so it doesn't keep people bored. And also the characters were very different, so both of these stand out. They also interconnected all of the stories that we had seen before with the likes of Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire. Both of these movies definitely validated that, but I would say these are still completely different and hold reign to themselves. I'll be very brief about this, but this version of Spider-Man, I think, were all the same, to be honest. There was nothing different about each and every one of them. They all cracked really, really bad jokes and swoop in all the same and sweep out all the same. So yes, the Lego appearances are all the same. So, do I think Spider-Man movies are repetitive? No, generally, but depending on the Spider-Man movie, it can be. They have aspects that are repetitive, but they are not repetitive in themselves. But without further ado, everyone, that is the end of today's video. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and comment what else you would like to see on this channel. And without further ado, hope you have an amazing day as always, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!
Yeah.